Hello everyone, it is Nicholas from Aussie Moneyman. So in this video, I want to give you guys 10 of the highest paying casual jobs in Australia. So I know for me, many times in my life, I've looked for casual work, and particularly, of course, I've looked for the highest paying casual jobs possible. So I actually had a list of these already. I've done some additional research on top of that, but I pretty much just put them into a list. Now, look, they're not in any order. They're just 10 jobs in Australia that pay pretty well, so a fair bit more than the usual casual job would, especially for what they are. If you haven't already seen my top 10 highest paying jobs without a college degree or without a university degree in Australia, feel free to check out that video. I actually detail a bit about how I do my criteria and stuff, so again, feel free to check out that. But with that said, let's jump straight into the video. Alright guys, so starting off at number one, it's actually supermarkets, with Aldi being the highest paid. So here in Australia, you've got usual supermarkets. You've got your IGA, your Woolworths, your Coles and Aldi. They actually all pay really well for what they are. So pretty much when you're looking at casual jobs in Australia, especially if you're younger, but in general, you're really looking at like 18, 20 bucks an hour, something like that, maybe 23 bucks an hour. But these supermarkets often will pay, something like 26, 28 bucks an hour just for, working at a supermarket. So that is pretty good and right up on this list. I mean, I know when I was in high school, the people that were working in supermarkets were being paid much, much better than those of us like myself that were working at McDonald's, KFC, or just usual sort of retail stores. And a little bonus tip on this one is basically if you're doing things like night fill, of course you will get a little bit of extra money for doing that sort of shift work and working on nights and stuff like that. Alright guys, so number two is basically going to be laborers. So I had a lot of friends, again, in high school and outside of high school that were doing sort of just your usual labor work, particularly brickies, and they often got paid a fair bit of money for doing that. Brickie is a bricklayer. That's me using the Australian lingo right there. But they literally usually get paid like $30 an hour plus. Obviously, it's very manual and you're being paid that for a reason, but it did make it onto this list because anything where you're doing a lot of labor work in Australia tends to pay pretty well, especially if you need things like a white card, which basically allows you to go on construction sites and stuff. It's like a safety course. I actually did that when I was in year 9, so I know a bit about that. Anywho, so basically labor jobs, things like doing bricklaying and stuff like that can be really good for money, but of course I will note, judging by people that I know that have done it, it completely does out your back and stuff like that over time, so probably not something you'd want to do for a long time, unless if you're into that sort of thing. You can use it as free bodybuilding, I suppose. Alright guys, so number 3 is going to be tutoring. So this can be independent or through a company. I have done both. Tutoring was the way I made the most money per hour. So when it comes to efficiency in regards to how much money I was making, the most money I've made is definitely, at least when I was younger, was definitely from tutoring. So if you do it through a company, you're often looking at like at least 30 bucks an hour. But if you do it yourself, it can be way more. I mean, like I started at $30 an hour. I quickly worked my way up to $60 an hour. And that's how much I'll charge now, usually between $50 and $60 an hour. And it can be in anything, like it can be in English, it can be in mathematics, it can be in chemistry, it can be in history, it can be in whatever you want. I used to tutor in chemistry pretty much. I think the thing I was mainly at, I did like one or two things, but mainly I tutor in chemistry. It was really my area of expertise at the time. I was really interested in that. So if you have an interest, you can go ahead and tutor. And again, even if you do it through a company, you're still looking at least 30 bucks an hour. Though a lot of these companies will start you on 26, but if you're teaching like year 12 people and like, going for the ATAR or OP, we call it in Australia, so that's your university or college admission rank, you'll basically be looking at a pretty bloody good rate. Like I'm talking, a lot of these people will charge like 50, 60 bucks an hour. And a lot of people's parents are willing to pay that. Again, it doesn't necessarily have to be high school stuff. You can be tutoring anything. You can tutor in music, and again, you'll often be charging like 50 bucks an hour to tutor someone on how to play the piano, for example. So tutoring is definitely a really, really good one. Also, guys, I just wanted to quickly add, not sure how exactly important this is to the video, but the reason I've sort of made this about casual jobs is casual jobs are just awesome, especially if you're interested in doing other things. Casual jobs are great. You can get a high-paying casual job, so that way you can just concentrate on whatever else is your main priority. Like the next one I'm about to talk about here, which is a youth officer, is what I did to make a hell lot of money in the least amount of time possible while I was running Aussie Moneyman part-time. So I was building up this YouTube channel, right? This as a business, which is absolutely awesome. So I think casual jobs are really, really great. And if you can get a decently paying casual job, it can be awesome for your life. And it's really good for work-life balance as well. Anyway, guys, with that said, jumping into the next one, as I mentioned, it is a youth officer. So it's basically a kid's prison guard. You're working in a prison guard. You're a screw, basically. But because you're working with, young people and youth, so it's 10 to technically 21, but although most of the people in there are about 15, 16, very rare you find someone 10, 11, or 12, even 13, 14 seems to be the youngest. And basically, because it's young people, you're less so of a sort of a screw, and this is why they call them a youth officer rather than like a guard, because you're not so much a guard, although that is an aspect of the job. A big part of the job is, of course, your relations, helping them sort of change how they are as a person, all that sort of stuff. So you do a bit of that. You act as like a bit of a counselor, but not quite, of course, as actual counselors, psychologists, and psychiatrist within the institution. But nonetheless, guys, this job pays really, really well. So I did this for about 8 months. And it's because it's shift work, there's weekend work, night work, and you get penalty rates. There was times there where I was on like $56 an hour, although the average, I think, ended up being like $36 an hour, something like that. So again, really, really good, especially if you're young. It's a casual job. You don't need qualifications to get into it. It's relatively easy to get a job doing this because not many people can do it. It is difficult. Obviously, you can imagine it's not the easiest job, and therefore their turnover rate's decently high. But nonetheless, guys, that is an option. I did speak about that in a video before. A lot of questions about that. So again, feel free to ask me any questions about that one. Anyway, guys, jumping onto the next one, it is actually hosting trivia nights. So I've jumped into the sort of the acting and the extra workspace and stuff like that quite a bit. And often when you're on sites like that, you'll run into all these trivia nights and these similar sorts of events, and these people that are looking for hosts. And often they'll be paying you like, you're usually looking at like at least $120 for like 2 to 3 hours, like, because you run like 1 or 2 trivia quizzes and then you leave. Now obviously the reason it's high paying is not many people are good at sort of controlling a crowd, entertaining a crowd, talking in public. However, if they are skills you have or skills that you're developing, this could be a role that's good for you. And as I mentioned, it does pay quite well. It is casual, it is relatively flexible in regards to what nights you want to do, stuff like that. Alright, guys, and the next one, as I sort of mentioned before, is extra work. So acting as an extra within sort of films and movies and stuff like that. So I've done a fair bit of this, and usually, again, you're looking at least $30 an hour. Sometimes it's more, especially if you get like a feature role where, you might be a bit closer to the camera, and you might have to do a speaking role, stuff like that. But general acting, extra work can be really good. It's also really easy. I mean, you're not really doing anything. 90% of the time, probably more, that I've done this sort of stuff, I've been on my phone. I've just sort of been like working on my business stuff, or texting a friend, or whatever you want to be doing, playing a game, whatever it is. And again, you get paid pretty well, and it's very flexible, and it's casual or part-time. I think technically that would be casual. So yeah, it's pretty easy, pretty good stuff there, and you can find work, stuff like that, looking on sites like Star Now, similar sites like that. They're always looking for extra work, or even just Facebook pages, and I've got a whole blog post where I actually link a bunch of the sites for that. So I'll link that down below. If I happen to forget when I release this video, just comment and I'll add that in, because that's actually on my website, Aussie MoneyMan. With that said, guys, do check out the description below. It's got like things like our website there, our second YouTube channel, some media features, some ways you can make some extra money, just some stuff like that there. So feel free to read through that during the video if there's anything there that might be of interest to you. Alright, guys, and the next one is actually another thing I've sort of gotten off these sites, because I've spent a lot of time scrolling on these sort of sites. Like I mentioned, that site called Star Now for acting work, extra work, stuff like that. And basically what it is entertaining kids at parties. This pays really well, like $100 an hour. Like literally, it's like at least $50 an hour. But a lot of these are paying like $100 an hour. And I think the reason for it is not many people are good with kids. I mean, I know I'm not good with young kids. I mean, I haven't tried. Maybe I am, but I don't have experience in that. So they're looking for people that are good and sort of manage, a group of kids and entertain them at parties. So there's often roles going for this for like 2 to 3 hours at a time that are paying like $100 an hour. So that is an option, and it's casual, and there's like, up to like 3 to 5 shifts a week that you can do for that. So that can be a way to make some quick, easy money if you're good with kids. And I know there's a lot of people out there, young, middle-aged, and older, that throughout their life have been childcare workers, stuff like that, and therefore could be really, really good for this type of work. So that is an option. Alright, so the next one is actually being a sports coach. So I haven't done this one myself, but I have had a lot of friends do this, particularly again when I was in high school, when I was working at McDonald's for like, I started on $8 an hour at a fruit shop, and I think I got up to like $18 an hour at McDonald's. These people were being paid, $30, $35, $40 an hour just to coach soccer games, often for kids a little bit younger, sometimes around their age, stuff like that. And they got paid pretty good money for it. And of course, that's casual. So that is always an option. If you have like a local sporting team and you know what you're doing there, you play sport yourself, or you used to, that can absolutely be an option for you. All right, guys. So the second last one here is going to be sales. Of course, the reason for this is usually you're getting sort of like a retainer or an initial base salary, and then it's basically on commission. So this can be really high paying, has the potential to be really high paying if you're good at sales. So if you're good at sales, or you want to become good at sales, this can be good. I've done sales work in the past. Definitely not my cup of tea, but there were people there making a lot of bloody money if you're good at what you do. Now, statistically, you're probably not going to be that person, but that's because most people don't work for it. But if you work for it and you want to be good at it, the potential's there. I mean, there was people there that were walking away with $500 a day, like $350 to $500 a day, because they knew how to sell or they learned how to sell. So sales can be really good, and there's a lot of casual selling roles out there. I mean, you can just jump on sites like I think LinkedIn's got a few of them there, like Jura, all the usual sort of Career One, those sorts of things. I think you can just do a Google search and there's a fair few people looking for sales. It's hard to find good salespeople, so if you're good at that, a lot of potential money. All right, so the last one is going to be IT. So you can do IT basically for the most part. When I was thinking of this, it's freelancing, and that's basically just jumping on things like even Facebook groups, but things like Fivver, TaskRabbit, and things like that. There's a lot of people out there looking for help with computers, and if you're decently good with computers, whether that's graphic design, video editing, database management, or building, whatever it is, coding, certainly you can get a fair bit of money for this. So again, you do need the skills for this one. This is why it's at the end, but it is a really, really high paying casual job. And you know, we've got so many examples of this. So you often would have seen those things on the news where, you know, like a young person gets paid $8,000 for building a software program, or even $80,000. I actually did read an article where that happened, and it was like 17. So you don't have to be at that level, but there is a lot of demand for people that are good with IT. And I mean, I know people personally that build websites for people and charge $3,000 to $3,500 to build these websites for people, and it takes them like 2 to 3 days to build. So you can obviously work out what that is as an hourly rate, assuming they're working like 4 to 8 hours a day on it max. I mean, I've asked them before, it's something like that. So again, you can certainly do that. The hardest part about that, to be honest, is having the basic skills to do that. Although building a website can be done on sites like Wix. It's a really easy drag and drop website builder. But the hardest part, I'd say, is actually finding the customers, and that's why I suggested Facebook groups. I know a lot of people use Facebook groups, and they're able to charge people what I'd say is probably more than what's probably fair, but you know, people do it. Welcome to business. Certainly not something that I do, but can be done, and you can make a lot of money from doing that. Again, this is a bit of a broad one, but that's an example. Building websites is something that I know that people do, and I know that people make a hell lot of money from doing. Anyway, guys, with that said, that is the video. I hope this has been helpful. I hope this gave you some ideas, some suggestions on some casual jobs that you can do that do pay quite well. So, you know, instead of being paid $20 an hour, $18 an hour, which is definitely, you know, how much I was being paid when I was younger, so especially high school age, versus, you know, the casual jobs that I was doing sort of in my sort of, I guess, early 20s, although I'm 20 now, so maybe my late teens would be the correct way to put it. Anyway, thanks so much for watching the video. Please hit subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Hit the notification bell if you don't want to miss videos, so that will, of course, notify you when a new video comes out. Hit like on the video. That just helps support the channel. Means also I know you like the video, so I can make more videos like this as well. Of course, guys, finally, if you haven't already downloaded our free ebook on market research, that is linked down below. So basically, that shows you how I make money from market research. So one of my like side hustles of the many that I have is doing market research. It's $50 to $120 per hour. You can't do a billion of them. You can only do them every so often. However, it's a good way to make a bit of quick money, perhaps maybe on top of one of these casual jobs that I suggested in the video. Thanks so much for watching.